They're winning in Iceland. That's the big spoiler for you guys right now, and I'm just really excited to now see who is going to be competing in the EMEA circuit in this next Challengers as well. You guys heard the desk talking about it for just a little bit, and again, we are trying to get into game as soon as possible. Just 20 seconds before our two teams can kick it off here between Anonymo and Rebels. And I think that when you're looking at it overall as well, we do have some slight variations in the compositions coming in here. Musashi, of course, playing the chamber, and I think you heard the desk talking about how there used to be a lot of Reyna play coming in over there. They're going to be starting off on the attack. We'll see what Janny can do here, locking in the Rays for the team as well. Already jumping into the pistol round to kick things off. Quick smoke over towards Mel and a Roomba to get Musashi up in towards vents. Notice the rest of Rebels are not immediately following off of this play. A couple players trying to work their way in towards Garage, but there's a great Cypher cam in that one that can be played for the retake or just for the information there, clearing out Gats inside Garage. 3 players stacked up towards B Heaven for Anonymo currently, although with the information they had off that Cypher cam, now trying to reassess the situation and move and clear back into Garage themselves. Atomic turns around the corner, sees Janny's face, takes 2 with the Ghost as players continue to swing around the corner. Bukashu is able to get 1 before being knocked down himself, and Gats finds a couple. Now Musashi up in towards Heaven will find the head of Kamek, and the site belongs to Rebels with just this long flank coming in from Sus.
Yeah, Sus to find 2. Set up solidly in this post plant already are Rebels. Sending back up towards Heaven. In fact, they're dropping back completely, so giving Sus a very limited opportunity to get back into the site. Even when he finds 1, he won't expect a double up. And this is just different. You know, they have an elevated change here. They have 1 player playing on the lower side, 1 towards Heaven. His crosshair would have to make a huge jump up, and there's just so many angles to think about right now. And Sus finally goes into the fight. That spike isn't planted easily for Heaven here. So Sus is going to get onto it, holding it, sticking already over half steps, coming towards him and out with a headshot. Back to the defuse.
Very nicely done from Sus right there. I think he was able to see the ghost from the player that was down in hell from around the corner. That's why he was trying to clear that spot before going for the full defuse. Then here's the drop on down. So Anonymo are able to clutch out around there with the help of Sus. And it seemed like there was a lot of initial really good work done by Atomic as well. He had that camera in B main and then sort of worked with the entire team. Him sort of taking the headway here to get a couple of kills too. So it really did come down to those 2 players, with Sus finishing it off rather.
I have the spike.
Let's flush them out.
Anonymous certainly happy with the start with this one. We'll see what Rebels have decided to go with. They have gone into the Sheriff's purchase and a couple of players, but for the most part, a full eco. I love how I made the joke to Ender that you possibly would have
and
to
then it
cast
happened.
This one, and it did happen.
Unreal. I'm just glad to have you back, Dinko, as Sus had a phantom there. That is not ideal.
Well, 4v4 start. Anonymo. Not exactly the best start for them, giving away a Phantom into the hands of Rebels. You can see the response here for Anonymo is to take some of that B main control back. They're pushing all the way through, gathering some information. Not only did they get info that isn't going to be the B split, once they come through Heaven, they would be able to then look back into the site. But they're continuing to push, and this just opens up an opportunity to come in from the Heaven side. Luckily, Anonymo have plays towards Defender spawn, and they're picking up this information.
Sneak's gonna be able to break that wall, and he still has a flash and a stun to work with, but Vukashu was able to find 2. Those B main players trying to get back onto the site, get their heads removed. And now, I mean, you're in a 2v4 situation. All the angles are cleared against you. It is just a disaster there from Anonymo.
Yeah, you can't really let Rebels, a team that is so comfortable on split, as the desk were pointing out. You know, you find the pistol, you can't let them force buy back. And it wasn't even a full investment, right? It was a couple of Sheriffs brought into play, and that was enough. They take the Phantom down early in the early round, and immediately you see the prowess that this Rebels side have. The first time I got to see these guys in action here in the promotions playing was a 13-6 win against Sector 1. They made a real statement in that map here on Split. So very comfortable side, and Anonymo have kind of thrown away their golden ticket to a good start.
They have. And you know, I've been watching some of the games recently too, and it feels like these early rounds have been hugely flippy, like in terms of like thrifty rounds, round 2 4 spies, winning those out. We see that here as well with Anonymo popping out through the smoke. Yeah. They get 1 before falling themselves.
Has been pretty messy and scrappy at times throughout the play, and I think you're going to get that with some of the regional sides coming in, playing some of the biggest matches of their Valorant careers so far. Lots of pressure on it, and maybe not quite the highest level of Valorant yet for these guys, but Definitely excited to see how this one will pan out. Anonymo getting a couple of kills into this round. We have to set the expectations to the fact that Anonymo shouldn't really get much done in this kind of round. And for Rebels, losing 2 players already, they want to make sure that they recover this economy because, as you said, Ender, if it gets scrappy, you don't want to be in that war of attrition we were constantly having to invest on low buys. But suddenly Sus catches one looking the wrong way.
I love Janny doing a balancing act. One leg up on rafters, the other one's hanging off like, look, I can stand on one leg and still shoot you. Not in that case, though. Just gets taken down from the back. And Rebels are able to close out a second round. So now you sort of have to look, as I think, especially going like 3rd, 4th round, sort of ultimate economy, what's going to be online. Rebels one away from having that res to be able to work with themselves. Sus has access to the knives. Not going to be coming into play too soon for him. Sus could have had the option if he wanted to pop the knives and then save for an op in the following round. Like, that is something you definitely can try to do as that Jet, but it seems like Sus wants to play a little bit more aggressively up towards mid. Notice the positioning right next to the breach inside vent, so you have the option, try and flash out, swing if you hear any sort of presence in mid, but it's Rebels going fast into A.
Yeah, it is speedy. Had to use the from the shadows to get into the side alongside the blast pack, immediately taking control of this one, Rebels. But luckily, Anonymo have decided to set up with a more passive retake approach. Currently sitting outside of Heaven, 2 towards Defender's spawn, and that 5th player now rotating back over. No pick yet found, so it is one of those scenarios. We're going to have a 5v5 retake. Anonymo started off, Gatch goes down. Again, a very passive setup from the chamber. Keep eyes on Musashi further back. He is going to need to do a lot of work because his teammates are going down inside of the side at a rapid rate. Maniac and Kamik, they clean it up, and they spotted out Musashi early on, so that is the reply.
Yeah, really nice retake there, and it was Sus, I believe, that heard Musashi do a little bit of a jump back over towards sewers as we were re-clearing down ramps right there. So Sus is able to lock off those 2 players trying to watch the cross or late enter into the site and takes those kills. But I think one thing we've already noticed from Rebels that I've definitely noticed from watching their gameplay is they are so quick on the attacking side. They love to explode out, not necessarily just into like site hits, but like explode up through mid on split or on other maps. It feels like within the first 15 seconds, Rebels almost always have cleared some significant portion of space, especially on those rifle rounds.
Yeah, and it seems like Anonymo might be aware of that as well, maybe looking at some of the VODs, because the way they set up to counter that possible A play was massive. They play retake instead of playing in the site. That keeps players up without losing them in the early round, which is certainly going to be Rebels' game plan here. We'll see if Sus can open up the first pick down into middle. The operator looking to gleam away some information, if nothing else. It has spotted one down towards bottom mid. Doesn't fall for the bait out.
Sus is actually just going to reposition. Now that, you know, he assumes they were able to see him with the operator and they smoke him off, he's going to be watching a different angle. Flash up into Male currently, and there was some early attention there put from Gats to see if there was any early peek in B main. Didn't see anything, so now he's just watching if it will be that late push. But right now, 2 players up in Male, and it is really hard to clear past both a breach and a raise, especially now that the operator is there to join them.
Yeah, mid-control is certainly a factor when it comes to Rebels' default team, but it has been traded out 1 for 1. Musashi gets away with a pick, but Janny's already down to the operator. 44 seconds left. They do have that res. They can commit it towards Janny.
I love the read from Musashi, too. Once you see the op in B Heaven, Vents is going to be clear. So he goes down there, breaks out the Cypher trip. Now, of course, Sus is rotated with that operator all the way back towards A site and is in exactly the right position. Sus's movements throughout this round have been so excellent. All the way to B Heaven, now onto site. You never expect an operator tucked all the way back there.
Very dynamic operator rotations, and Sus has come in with 1, follows up with the Blade Storm. 3 in total in this round. 10 seconds left, but the damage is already done. And now just 1 single player left to claim, and it is Sus that is taking everybody down. Not enough time to really get anything here for Gatch. He has made his way to Defender's spawn, and now he's white-knuckle gripping that Vandal. He wants to carry this over to the next round. Anonymo will give him that bit of mercy. They don't really have the credits here to drop and going for that risk play, so it will keep 3 rounds on the board. But yeah, Sus, massive.
And I think it goes to show that so much of like operator play or strong duelist play in essence isn't just down to like raw aim mechanics, because you can be the best aimer in the world and just not be in the right position in half the rounds you play. But Sus constantly through this round was making the right decisions and was able to get a pick up in B Heaven, rotate back over towards A. Even the player he killed got rezzed. That didn't stop him from dropping a huge round and securing that for his team. So now watch this. Rebels on a bit of a scuffed by very quickly, moving into the back of A site.
And once again, though, it is Anonymo playing this initial retake setup, right? No one in the site. No one goes down to these early fights to Rebels. And given that they've got weaker weapons, it puts them in a tough position. So that spike is going to go down. But holding on to the site becomes a real difficulty.
Oh no.
Another missed shot, this time for the Tour de Force. That is huge, but will they check Gatch? Luckily, they traded out 1-for-1, and now that Rolling Thunder being invested, just trying to hold on to the site. They're losing their lives, and everybody from Rebels needs to step up now, and luckily, Janny gets into the mix. Musashi able to find one on that Tour de Force, and we're down to Sus and Kamik from the shadows to the back of the site. Just trying to get some control, some information as the spike finally will start to get planted here for Anonymo.
I love that.
Oh, defusing rather.
So little time, and Anonymo are able to clutch it out. I mean, you use the from the shadows to avoid the crossfire right there, like you're saying, and then you have the op to hold you in heaven. Like, what a creative on-the-fly play. It's so rare you see a situation like that. We're using the from the shadows to actually get onto a site. Usually it's to get into the back of a site or maybe to flank late in a round like that, but that was a really good heads-up play from Kamek and Sus to sort of watch all the entrances back into site. And it was after Rebels tried to change some things up, because you remember the last time they hit a site, not the time that Sus was just getting 80 kills with the operator, but the time before that, it was actually trying to control ramps with a couple of players, and Sus beat them out in that. So they tried to re-change up the positions, playing on top of that box with the Omen there, but it just didn't work as perfectly as they would have liked to, and Anonymo had all the information. There was going to be a ramp player. There's Sus once again. The operator play is just too clean.
Sus, this is the kind of Sus that we haven't seen yet. I mean, Anonymo, from what I've seen over the last couple of days, have been a relatively inconsistent team. Haven't really shown me too much of this system that I can get behind, but this is impressive so far. It's a completely different phase, and Sus once again puts himself in a position where he's able to come away with a pick. Unfortunately, this time gets baited out. So, minute left, still holding that advantage. Anonymo with not too many problems, but Rebels now set their sights on this B side.
Just some sheriffs right now to work with. And again, the utility coverage there is very, very nice. Maybe if the concuss comes in slightly sooner, you can get a little bit more damage with those paint shells, but it's all the ideas of locking down B Heaven with those two agents that can be so good. And wow, baiting out a Rolling Thunder. Just one player there, but very clear Anonymo are not messing around. They want to win this round, even at the cost of a big ult.
Well, Kamik's done very well there, taking down Vukashu. Gatch tries to get close into the battle, ends up getting caught, paranoid up, and while Janny able to get at least one from the Sheriff, but the rest of the squad, as you would expect, going down to the superior rifles. And Kamik is probably the player I would have told you to look out for today. You know, when you look at his performances so far throughout the play, and I think he was the player that delivered the most impact for Anonymo in my eyes. But today, if you have Sus really stepping up and Kamik, well, not really having to do the brunt of it, this is where this team gets exciting. That's what they have.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't even really seen that many like aggressive B hits coming through from Rebels just yet, so not a ton of time, although Kamik has been switching it up between the two sites. Atomic going to be over on the B this time around. But I do wonder, and I like seeing Sus go into a new position now, because that was the second round in a row, or not the second round in a row, but the second round we've seen of Sus playing vents with the operator, repositioning up towards B Heaven. And that's something you can try to read out if there is going to be a bit of a pattern. This time around, it was an early peek from Sus in A main, now slowly backing it up towards screens as he sees, well, they're actually putting much more attention up towards mid, and now he's going to be here to support the rest of his team with a 3 stack up in A Heaven.
Sus is just so dynamic right now. He's already leaving that position, coming back, and this is really difficult to try and counter if you're Rebels. You know, you're having to deal with an operator that's causing you so much harm, and now it comes back into your crosshairs so quick. Sus able to flick out, does find Vukashu, and gets back to cover behind.
Oh my god, he might be Sus, but he's no Baka. Always in the position that Rebels are trying to walk on forward. Now they don't have the Sage to work with, and I mean, they don't know where to go, because now you can almost make the read, hey, Sus killed us from B Heaven. He's probably not there anymore. This guy's been so fluid on the map, but all they have right now is Gats and B main to slowly work on forward. They can infer perhaps there's a Cypher in the area, but again, the Breach plus Raze utility combination makes it so hard to work with. The flash and the swing out towards Rafter, although Maniac does drop.
Mick has to deal with two positions. He's aware they could come in from B main, but he hears the steps coming over the top. He has to turn and fight, and Lynxy will still best him in the duel. 13 seconds left. Spike loose. Rebels are really struggling right now. They are lost in the open. They have to try and cross safely, but Snick knows if he can just get into position to stop that spike from getting across. I don't even know if there's enough time for this plant now. They try to get to the corner, but it's down anyway. Kamik just steps in behind, TP's into the perfect position, and Rebels, they are getting destroyed at the moment, just outplayed in every
they just ran out of time, right? It's sort of what the Breach plus Raze does to you on a map like this, is if you stall out in the mid rounds, you will just run out of time if they are holding on to their utility. Like, the amount of time they were able to buy in B Heaven, and it was all due to, again, the fact that there was an op kill initially, and that just shut down the mid-round calls from Rebels. I would say that Rebels as a team, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, they love to go for very aggressive hits early on in rounds, but maybe they get a little bit lost in the sauce in the mid-rounds if those initial pieces of aggression don't end up working out for them. And I think that Sus has been a big problem for them, is figuring out how do we deal with this operator. And it's not like they're want for tools, right? They've got quite a few flashes with both the Breach and the Omen, but these later peaks from Sus have definitely been catching them by surprise.
Yeah, it's forcing the Rebel side now into a position where they have to try and rethink their initial game plan, because we've seen them attempt it a couple of times now, and those quicker rounds you pointed out, they certainly still tried to run it over and over again, even when they got caught on it. But I think they've now realized Anonymo are playing in a way that it kind of counters that. They've got the operator being unpredictable, very dynamic. It's picking them apart in the early round. They don't have as much prowess at taking that mid control either. This feels very rough for Rebels, and a timeout certainly needed to try and figure out how to get into this one. It looks like a heavy A play, and with the weaker weapons, maybe just this congregation of forces could pay off, but they're about to go into the operator.
Yeah, this is a timeout where you sort of figure out your money, figure out some kind of play you can run here on the half buy, because they're 2 points away on both Raze and Breach. So quickly up towards ramp here, but Kamik is right in the perfect position to punch them all.
Oh, Vakashu and Gatch at least keep it even for the time being. The equilibrium established in the paint shells. They're going to get away with a double. Vakashu and Gatch both go down, and now just Lynxy into the clutch. Difference is, this one is doable. He's picked up the Phantom. He obviously knows his position, but if he can find the operator in a close fight, this could be it. But Sus, just not missing shots today.
Always where he needs to be for his team to shut it down. Even a round that gets a little sketch for a second there. In a 1-on-2, Anonymo are able to lock it down, and I would say like Rebels have been able to find quite a bit of value with the pistols on the scuffed buys, but now they're gonna have to really knuckle down and figure this one out. They do have that breach ult to work with, and we've seen like them use that over towards A. I think Ryan did a great breakdown on the desk of how they tried to just explode out onto the A site in a previous match, but hold on to that breach ult for the post plant. So that's something they could look to do here. Or maybe farm an orb or try to get a kill on Janny. Activate that Raze as the primary means of initiation. For now, though, it is just that smoke over by A main to sort of fake that they're walking up towards ramp, and you can see that Sus has perhaps taken a little bit of bait off of that one. No longer playing towards the B site, instead updrafting up towards vents, as they hadn't had any previous information on who could be mid. So it's possible someone's walked up into vents. Of course, they do have the Cypher trip, so they don't have to worry about A Heaven, but now Sus will be on the cross, and this is the first time it's felt like in a long time that Rebels are moving towards a position on the map where an operator is not going to be waiting for them.
It's going to be the rightful setup, but the problem is this is a good setup on the defense as well from Anonymo, right? You have this 7 setup as the early information. You can throw the paint shells down to try and delay. They're going to have to try and cut through Maniac. He even gets away with another one on the blast pack. 2 down early. Maniac has done his work before he gets traded out. Wall goes up just before Vakashu falls victim to the rifle, and now we have to look at what should be a retake, but the spike is loose and Sus has arrived. He's found another.
And watch the flank, Musashi all the way coming back here. Could go screens, could go Heaven. The call is screens, but now it's just him. They have some false sense of security because of sneak, but you can see even Atomic is ready for it. They know this player is locked over by screen, so a TP and a swing out Heaven. Even with the dink, it's not going to be enough. 8-2 now for Anonymo.
Yeah, it's rough here right now for Rebels. Every play they make, you said they're not going into the operator this time. They finally avoided Sus. This time they get absolutely destroyed by the initial Raze setup from Heaven. And yeah, Maniac, in that position, maybe you get away with one. It's a very common spot, but the fact he gets away with that blast pack, the paint shell slow, sever off the initial attack forward. it really does a good job at stifling the Rebels. And that flank from Musashi, that could have certainly reaped some rewards, but it's the fact that his teammate goes down on the site. You pointed out, they just now focus on that position, realizing, well, he's not here. He has to be somewhere else right now. What is open? So, yeah, very rough start here for Rebels and their attacking side. That being said, on split, you can sometimes get off to a slow start in this attacking side. And Anonymo, I've seen through the games I've seen over the last few days, and their attacking side sometimes leaves a little to be desired. They usually put up these massive halves on defense and can sometimes slow down significantly on that attacking side. So if you are a fan of Rebels, don't disparage.
That's definitely fair to point out. And I'll say, like, Rebels did hold on to the breach ult, not because they wanted to. I think they were trying to use it for the post plant, but Lynxy did just end up getting shot from down inside one of those Cypher smokes. One of the reasons why Maniac was able to get so much value just peering straight down into that one as Rebels were trying to hit over towards the site. So, I mean, in terms of ultimates, Rebels feel fantastic, but now the debate they have to sort of go with, as we are in a bit of a brief pause, is it worth trying to use these ultimates to sneak a round win? Or do we just try and make it a 9-3 when we're able to buy in the next round? Because right now Musashi does have that hero rifle.
This goes here.
And get a couple of kills. Maybe that means he can use the ult in the following round. But to me, my expectation here for Rebels is that they are probably just going to try to hold on to those ultimates. Sage perhaps could come online if they get an early pick. And if they can keep Janny and Lynxy alive later into the round, an early pick could mean that's when they make that decision to go ahead and spend everything in this one.
Yeah, I think you need to at least, at this point when you have a bad start on the attacking side, you need to figure out how do we at least squeeze out 4 in this first half. You know, 4 is generally the round you feel a little bit more comfortable with. Obviously, we have the memes about the 9-3 curse, but let's be real. No team wants to be in a situation where they only win 3 rounds in the first half. So 4 should be the minimum available here for Rebels. And right now, it doesn't look too possible. So you see them kind of him and hanging about which buy decision they're going to go for. Luckily, still committing to the Sheriffs and the 1 rifle. Now, Rebels do have enough firepower and capabilities of pulling off a round like this, but it's extremely unlikely with how Anonymo have just been so tight. It's been so great to see for them. And even if you commit that Rolling Thunder in this kind of round just to try and get yourself into it, you have to also consider the ultimates over on the Anonymo side of things. They've also got that Rolling Thunder in place. So, yeah, even if you get onto the site, holding it is a difficult story.
You know, I'd really like to see Rebels try to get, like, 1 player up in mid. Like, the previous round, we had a pretty late lurk from Musashi, but if you can actually get that chamber into vents or just outside mail, you can actually hear all the way back towards defender spawn and sort of count rotating players and time your flanks a little bit more properly. So you do get into the round. It will be full presence up towards mid, but again, Sus is able to find a kill very, very quickly. And if we had question of will ults come online in a round like this, I think that and removing the breach from play almost immediately tells you absolutely not.
Yeah, that just removes a lot of options available. If Rebels get into a winnable position with this, they can be happy about it, but yeah, it's definitely going to be damage control for the next round. They have somewhat evaded Sneak, but somehow they turn back. 3 kills suddenly come in for Rebels, and a nightmare out of the pause for Anonymo. They're down to 2 players already, and Rebels needed a miracle to force themselves to an opportunity at 4, and now they're getting there. Missed knives from Zus. He commits the Blade Storm into it, unable to get anything. And that is a massive round to pick up for Rebels.
That is one of the most illegal round wins I think I have ever seen. That was insane. You have this crossfire of Maniac up on Rafter. I forget who was the Hell player, but they've got it set up perfectly. And then I watched about 25 bullets go straight into the wall. Gonna have to call in a demolition crew to finish the job on that one because that was not pretty at all.
Well, now you've won without really using too much of your ultimates, in fact, none. So in this round, now your economy's in a good stead. You've also got the Rolling Thunder available. You got the Res, the Showstopper, 4 rounds, now very doable for Rebels. And they can recover this half. Is that quick play? Signature move from Rebels, but the Showstopper goes in just to slow it down.
Counter Showstopper. Now Janny taken down very, very low. Heal will bring him close to full. And still does have that ultimate, but no paint shells means that it's very hard to get value with that ulti trying to enter into a site. You still have the Rolling Thunder though. Breach's position is up in towards heaven, so if you can get a little bit closer, you can use that out onto site. See all those pings going down. They want to use it everywhere. Here's the combo coming through, Dinko.
Yeah, the Rolling Thunder into the Showstoppers got one, but oh, the Nightmare, the fall damage from Yanni on the way down. And that has actually slowed it. Rebels haven't fully committed just yet. They are waiting to get into a position where they can throw up that res. And now Kamik at the back of the site has done enough to get one, but his teammate needed to step up. And with Admik not finding a single kill, it puts Anonymo in a difficult position. The flank from Sus now spotted out.
The tag.
Remaining player coming in for defender spawn from Sneak as well.
Kashu low is being healed, and Sneak did so much work, but it's a 1v4 coming around the corner. He falls. 1 versus 3 in the final round of the half. You got to go for it, but I don't think there's anything here, Dinko.
I mean, Sus has been fantastic, but yeah, even this situation for him is a little unwinnable. Yanni will recover. The res gets him back up to his feet, and he'll close with 3-4 rounds at the half for Rebels. An initial shaky start, right? Their game plan didn't work out so well. They had to really adapt, and I mean, let's be real, that round was illegal, as you pointed out. That gets them into a position to take 4 at the half. So I think they'll feel pretty good about that, considering it could have been much worse.
I've got to say, in that last round, Rebels did win it, but we have to put some respect on Sneak, who was able to use a Rolling Thunder from A Heaven to catch the players in B Heaven, went all the way through mid. So that's why the initial site hit ended up stalling out. That may have also contributed to the fall damage coming through. I'm not quite sure, because I don't think we had the POV for Maniac. Also had a great concuss there, too. So Sneak, even though he wasn't on our screens until the very end when he dropped in the 2v4, was doing so much work with that near global utility coming through from the breach. But now we have Anonymo, and we'll see what they can do on defense. Just a very early trip set out by Musashi's chamber to watch them in mid. We actually have 2 players in vents and a player in male to sort of swing off of this trip if they get any presence. The blind and the concuss, what a piece.
Yeah, I love that. Utility combo just to set up for that mid-control back. So Rebels initially held behind smokes, but decided to go in with the paranoia to take mid-control. Good proactive play there for Kamik to get away with the pick on Musashi. Gap in the dark cover inside of mid here as well. Gatch needs to be careful he doesn't get overrun. He will be. He will be taken down by Sneak. The spike now loose, and Anonymo have to play the rest of the pistol, a player down.
Still heavy mid presence from Rebels and a flash to work with. 10 seconds away from the fault line. Kamik is not done with this one just yet. Sees a couple of players and calls back at him. He's like, yeah, we need some help in mid.
Jenny's taking up a lot of damage. Unfortunately, fault line is going to allow the fallback. So they'll contain and maintain the 3 players on the board. And this will force Anonymo to make a decision in these last 30 seconds. Where do they want to lean with this one? And it looks like Rebels have the right read. They're going to be setting up for the A play. And that's exactly where Anonymo look to try and finish.
Double smokes, though, from Kamik, so and a paranoia, too. So definitely some tools to work with, but I think Vukashu out here on Rafter is definitely going to have the jump here. Just 1 hit needed to take down the single player. Now Kamik is going to TP back onto site, but you can just overwhelm him with the flash.
He's going to sit towards the back of the site, sends the paranoia out, but they already are out, and that separates it down into the 1v1. Kamik will hold for it, and so close to pulling off a ridiculous clutch, but Gianni removes him from play. But that spike plant, that does make a difference. That gets you a few extra credits moving into this next round, and if they want, now that they got it down to the 1v1, an investment can come through. A 4 spike can be back here for Anonymo. But fantastic to pick up the pistol here for Rebels.
Yeah, and I would say Rebels, watching them on defense, they're a team that doesn't like to sort of send bodies in 1 by 1 to stop a plant from going down. They do play a little bit more slowly, waiting to get the rest of their team back for a retake. So even there, it was just a 2 versus 1. You completely understand getting the second player there. That's something that will persist a little bit, I feel, for Rebels, is as a trend across multiple maps on the defensive side, is waiting to get the full team there with utility to retake in a very coordinated manner, I would say. And what that means is you can get into a little bit of time trouble, but Anonymo will have to be on their guard in the post plants with all the utility that's going to be coming in.
So the more reserved economic decision here for Anonymo. Now they're going to go with a strength in numbers mentality towards Gatch, who will end up taking the first down. Maniac removed. So now the rest of Anonymo, the Walking Wounded, continue to try and at least get a spike plant. They want to try and take down as many players as possible. They found 2 so far, numbers even. They're giving it the better weapon, still stand with Rebels. You should still be seeing them pull this one through, but somehow, some way, Anonymo are still finding opportunities to get these trades back. Keeping it even yet again, and if Lynxy commits into that angle, it would be between 2, but luckily recovers, separates them off, and is able to get 6 rounds for Rebels, but 3 players go down. Quite an expensive round there.
Yeah, definitely Anonymo keeping Rebels honest on those life buys for sure. It does look like Rebels, interesting enough, do want to force on into this one, not take the bonus, and instead Janny forcing up even on light armor. I don't know how much I love this decision. I was gonna say, I think this is the much more reserved choice from them. Gat's also spending quite a bit here, down to just 100 credits too. They want to change his mind, and there he does. Okay, so Rebels were definitely trying to figure out that round, and with just a few seconds on the clock, they made the right call, and Musashi was able to get the initial pick.
Yeah, that was a very last-minute situation, but the fact that they found this early kill will allow them to settle the nerves a little bit, but Anonymo, still with the better weapons, have found their way into the A site. Rebels would have to pull off a retake. They do have some utility available. They have the Aftershock, the flashpoints, but now they've lost Musashi, so that advantage no longer sides with them. And Charles from Janny still online. Just the time ticks on, Anonymo set up a pretty strong post plants. Janny does have to know that there is that Omen playing far off on this, so he's taking their time, cutting off each and every point of access, and that will remove Kamik from finding impact, and he's going to try and go through the gap in the wall here. Into the site they go. Kamik has found Vukashu. Janny able to reply, and the defensive side have actually maneuvered their way into the site. Still to the back of the site, though, there is sneak, and only one for him as he gets traded out. And suddenly we're thrust into the clutch. Kamik coming in from heaven, the paranoia connects, and the headshot to recover it for Anonymo.
Really creative defensive round, though, from Rebels. Anonymo do secure that with just a single player remaining, but you can sort of see how Rebels like to play on the defense. They're taking it very, very slowly in, even using that late round wall to try and keep Kamik out of the situation. Almost worked out for them, but kind of ended up baiting them at the end there too, expecting him to be a main. Kamik made the exact right decision to run all the way up towards heaven. That's exactly what was planned for, and with the paranoia, there's no way you're going to win with that little time on the clock.
Well, now they've got the buyout, Rebels. The solid buy with no real holes in it. Got the operator in play. Going to be in the hands of Musashi. Now, we have seen some incredible rounds from him throughout the play-in stage of the competition. Excited to see if that is going to continue into this, but Anonymo currently playing the B contact play. There's nothing really here to spot them apart from that boom bot that will gather some info, and now they begin their charge forward. Holding from the top is going to be Janny. Headshot connects onto Maniac, and Showstopper deployed will scare them off. Anonymo do not want to commit into that.
Get out of here. Don't want any piece of that play whatsoever. And I really like the decision from Anonymo, just go full contact out onto B. It was just really nicely timed, Roomba, as you were mentioning. And 3 players stacked on the site means there's not a whole lot you can get done. Anonymo did also set up all the Cypher utility over towards A main, so they're not worried necessarily about a flank, but if they decide to sort of split back through mid to get some presence up towards B heaven, like, there could be players pushed up pretty aggressively with how much attention Anonymo put just fully into B main early on in that round.
At this point, Anonymo waiting for that overstep from Rebels, but there's no reason to do so for Rebels. It has to be Anonymo to make the play. Rolling Thunder available, and that could be effective as 2 players play inside of the site. They're going to use the fault line first. Sus clears out the back of the site, and the Blade Storm will not connect onto its crucial kill. So now Lynxy sends in his Rolling Thunder to force them back, and he'll peek alongside his teammate, and Vukashu able to shut it down.
Really nicely done there by Rebels. Shut down the initial contact play, hold the line, don't get overeager rotating out or anything like that. Anonymo made the decision just to simply cut noise, but I think we're going to see if you just try to go direct hits through B main onto B, you run into a lot of issues. Those players up in heaven, you know, a player on rafters that can clear you out as you're trying to go back in towards default, in towards back of sight. If you don't have the attention of the rafters player pulled from mid, you are just going to get shot, and there's sort of too many angles to account for as you're working in towards that site. So Anonymo now call the timeout. This is an early round timeout, usually called in like round 4 when you're on that bad buy. Figure out how do we, how much can we afford to spend here? Sus, do you want to save to op on the attacking side if that's the call? Because of course Musashi is going to be carrying over that op for many, many rounds here. And sort of putting together that plan for you, because the full B main push contact did not work and got spotted out by Rebels very early on.
Yeah, this is the problem that I brought up just a few rounds ago in that first half, right? The fact that Anonymo can start super strong in their defensive side, the fact that they let it slip a little bit and let 4 rounds get on the board for Rebels, that's what worries me. I think Anonymo's attacking side has been a little lifeless at times, so you put yourself in a pretty difficult position here. And now we're seeing some of the economic troubles already starting to come through. They're down to a Spectre, they've got a couple of Sheriffs out. It's not a great buy at all here for Anonymo, so we should be looking realistically at 9-8 scoreline already for Rebels, allowing that momentum to be built. Initial control at mid, not going to be established for Anonymo. Force back.
Yeah, that's the oldest strat in the book, going all the way back to the beta, the paint shells plus the slow orb. That time, though, Sneak's able to get the kill on Janny from over top of the wall. This is a very aggressive piece, and look at the two players swinging out from sewers. Rebels have already lost 2 against the Eco.
Yeah, it's done well here for Anonymo to open it up massively. Now has cut open a giant hole in this defense, and the missed shot from Masashi. That certainly could have started to patch it up a little bit, but missing out on that opportunity has given Anonymo a massive chance here. But it is pretty obvious they were trying to drop back towards sewers, so it will be Masashi repositioning over here. The operator looking to try and crack down on a few initial players, and a collateral is one way to try and even these numbers up. 1 bullet, 2 kills, and now the sign to go for Anonymo.
Yeah, and if they can get up towards heaven, there's an operator to recover there if they want. Don't know if they're going to have enough time. They will get the plant down, but Lynxy in screens gets the kill. Now the crunch, because Gats went all the way around, back through spawn, and now towards A main, and Anonymo are making the decision to sort of double up back towards elbow and screens.
A little bit more of an advanced stance here as well. The swing out from Sneak will spot out the information of Gatch and his whereabouts. And now the flank around from Maniac. He knows he at least has a 1v1. He's going to catch Lynxy looking the wrong way. And it puts it all on Gatch to recover this round. The ticket back into this one for Anonymo. Boombot goes through, and Gatch thought he had taken it out, and just that second attempt of having to go back and get it means his crosshair isn't in the right spot. It's an easy kill to take him out, and Anonymo, they win on a weaker buy.
I mean, what a peculiar round. Rebels clearly have this practice push up towards mid, but against a thrifty buy, I do not like that decision going all the way up on top of the Sage wall, just lost to the Sheriff of Lynxy from back in market, and then the decision, or sorry, the Sheriff of Snick rather, and then they just pull the Rolling Thunder. Like Anonymo making that on-the-fly decision to use the Rolling Thunder in a round like that ended up being exactly the right call, anticipating a couple of players pushing in mid behind Janny. And that's going to be a round that Rebels certainly won back for themselves.
We'll see if Rebels can respond. Otherwise, this could become a nightmare for them. Their map pick, after all. A map that looks so solid for them in the play-in. Rebels starting to gather all of their forces towards A. It's going to be commitment here. Again, you now got Gatch rotating over. He's got the slowdown. He can just delay with his smokes being set up, the dark cover, creating that one-way. And now it looks like they're at the ready to go here in Anonymo.
It's possible. I think the smokes are going to come down. I was expecting maybe a bit of a contact play to get a kill onto the Rays, but Maniac is just going straight on back into the site. And they're just tearing heads. 2 kills already.
That's beautiful from Anonymo, just cracking open the skull at 2, and Rebels left into the 3 versus 5. Difficult situation to be in here, and now they have to start considering their economy as well. Do you throw 3 bodies at this and try and commit to maybe a losing battle? You don't have too much to fall back on. If you go into the next round, you're going to be in a pretty tough spot. So they're hanging around for the time being. They're waiting for a chance. Someone to get maybe over-aggressive, overstep the mark a little bit. Good clearance, and that is going to get Admeek into the open, but Janny still has to fight on multiple players, and Kamik gets into the corner. That gets out of dodge, and Anonymo keeping this one relatively clean. They've just lost 2 players, and now Lynxy into the clutch alone. Starts to realize time's ticking. His chances of winning this round extremely slim, and is now backing his way, conceding the round.
I just want to know where Masashi's bullet went on that one. It looked like it was staring down Maniac, and it just went right through him. No kill on that one. I think he, of course, had the ultimate going, so wanted to see what he could accomplish. But I really liked Anonymo's post-plant setup right there with both Kamik and Sus back towards A main. Sus just waiting to play off the contact from his Omen on that high ground and was very patient on that one. So they are able to go up to 11, and hey, after sneaking a cheap win in the round before, they're able to convert it into another one. And they've been able to win rounds even without putting a lot of pressure in mid, right? That was just a late round A execute that ended up going all in their favor. And they did end up committing that Raze ult into the play, but that's something you are more than happy to do when it gets you so close to match point like that.
I guess we can start now talking about the storyline that Lothar brought up and the narrative he was trying to weave us was the fact that if you look at Breeze as the next map, it's not a particularly strong map for Rebels. It's a map that Anonymo have been willing to play and look pretty good on. And that's map 2. So if Rebels drop the ball here on split, Anonymo in a good position to try and 2-0 this one. And, you know, looking from the side of the groups, I think Rebels had a stronger group on paper. You look at the teams inside of their group, the fact that they were able to dispatch of the teams felt very good for Rebels. I thought that would set them up for great expectations coming into the playoffs of the promotions. On the other side of things, Anonymo barely made it through. So I thought, you know, the expectations I had was that this game should be rather one-sided towards Rebels, but Anonymo are impressing me a lot here.
They certainly are. I think their defensive half looked super solid up until the very end. And now we're going to have to see what they can do with this fast defensive push. Vukashu actually gets the kill on Sus. The operator is down. I believe that's what Sus had in his hands.
A round like this, right, you have to take a few more of those risks because you can't just go tit for tat and play the same round out in a default, and because you got the weaker weapons. So Amic has pushed up in towards ropes. He's holding for it. If Gatch goes up, he's surely to die.
And Dinko, this is one of the things I was hoping we saw a little bit more of on both halves. Now, it is a little bit risky because, again, you're in a one-on-one situation before the rest of your team gets here. And with this smoke, actually, everyone's going to meet up with the Cypher. Interestingly enough, I thought that was going to be sort of that pivot player that can make the decision to rotate on a dime. And if they continue forward here, they are going to, but they're going to run into this tripwire right in front of them, right? So he's like, wait a second, turn around, Gats. There's someone here. They've got a gorgeous crossfire. Musashi finds 2.
Yeah, Musashi able to line them up, and now Kamik, his turn. Musashi gets away with 3 kills in the round, and it's just 1 left here for Anonymo. A single rifle into the clutch, and it's damaged up. It's down to 46 HP here on Sneak. They'll commit to the site. The aftershock's so good, and the res also invested into just confirming themselves this round here, Rebels. It would take a monumental effort on 7 HP to pull this off. They'll commit to the plant, locks it in. He's going to use everything in his arsenal, but it's not going to be enough. Fukashi will best him, and Rebels, a much-needed round. They started with the weaker guns, and they're able to pull through for it.
Really nice setup there off of the trip. Musashi is just over on ramps, gets a couple of kills, then TPs into the position his teammate just died in. A little bit surprising for the Anonymo members that were running up in towards A Heaven, and I feel like that sort of shows you like it can be really hard to work through vents when there's any kind of like info sentinel on the other side. Chamber, Cypher, Killjoy, like any of those alarms, whether they're up in Heaven like we saw in the previous round, like we see again that same chamber setup, or down in vents too. Like you just never get into A Heaven on a contact play through mid. It just does not work, and that's why I was more expecting to see Admic just go into vents by himself and then work for that later round rotation, maybe after that chamber player dies or whatnot. Now, though, Anonymo quickly up towards ramp, and Maniac is able to get 1 with another player coming up, but Gatch is so good on that until he gets shot straight in the back of the head from the shadows.
Shadows traveling.
Now commitment to the site for Anonymo. They'll smoke off with the dark cover towards defender spawn, cutting off an information point for Rebels back into this retake. They can see this. They're down to 12-8. They're a map pick after all, Rebels. They need to keep some life in them. Economy's not that great either on a couple of these players. Rolling Thunder being held here from Sneak. Kamik is making things very easy for Anonymo. And with that utility just keeping them back, it's buying crucial seconds for Anonymo in this post plant. They try their best. Rebels realize it's a Hail Mary play left if they want to commit to this. It doesn't feel like it's doable. They're backing off yet again. Yeah, this feels very rough for Rebels. They might even get caught in the cross. Kamik will certainly take down Vukashu. And now just Linksy, the lone survivor. This is turning into a bit of a bloodbath for Rebels.
I just love how Anonymo are able to maintain so much utility for these post plants. I mean, they've still got Paranoia, they've got Ultimate. I think they've actually held Paranoia in the majority of rounds on attack, not using it like the common like blind ramps play, those basic ones. No, they're not doing that. They're using it later in the round so that you can have Kamik play more of a lurk role, or in that case, TPing into the back of A Heaven and getting that crunch play. It was really creative how Anonymo were able to use that and just stall out those players from trying to get out that tight choke back towards screens. It is just not an easy task when you're dealing with an Omen and a Breach on the other side, and I think we're going to see something very similar from Anonymo here.
This is their way to close it. Anonymo starts their charge forward. It's going to be that quick pace play yet again from Maniac to clear out the site. Musashi removed towards the back of the site. Gatch unchecked, and he is still the play you've got to keep eyes on for Rebels. Unfortunately, just one. And so that is not enough to equal out these numbers. And once again, Rebels have to retake with a player down.
They're coming in hot, though. 3 players in elbow, and they get a couple on the start. Lynxy gets a couple. Kamek falls as well, one-on-one.
Oh, he gets out. He's actually Shrouded Step to cover around the other side, but Lynxy's tracked him, but Kamik, he's just playing with his food now. He begins to wrap around, but Lynxy's going to use everything. He's even got the Rolling Thunder available. He's got the Aftershock still up, but he's just trying to pull Kamik into the fight, but he won't be able to do it. 13 rounds for Anonymo. They will take map 1.
Wow, a very strong-looking map 1. From defense to pulling it back at the attack. It is looking real nice for them pulling that one all together on Rebels map pick, I believe, as well. Kamek, I mean, the man to watch in the second half for sure. You're absolutely right. That is the guy you have to watch. But I think on defense, it was definitely sus operator play that was so clean and so crucial to securing the majority of those rounds.
And now we're in a rough position for the side of Rebels, right? A team that has so many expectations on their shoulders from their community, from even the pundits who think they're going to pull through and take the win overall. Well, now they've got to do it the hard work. They've lost their map pick. To battle back and stay alive in this series, they have to do it on Breeze, and that's coming up after the break.